My recommendation for you guys, while we do this, probably want your calculator out. So in section 7.3, we're going to talk more about descriptive statistics. Specifically, we're going to talk about center today in section 3, and then spread next time. So I've split this section into 2 halves. So one measure of center is the median. That's the midpoint in the distribution. So you have an equal number of observations that are greater than it and less than it. So to find that median, we arrange everything from smallest to largest. If we have an odd number of observations, it's easy. It's just the middle number. If we have an even number of observations, it's going to be the average of the 2 middle numbers. Just the same as we talked about last time, right? So let's say we have a distribution that looks like this, and we want to find the median. Now you could arrange this like in a stem plot where it's now arranged from like smallest to biggest and kind of count to the middle. I would never do it this way in practice. In practice, I'm doing this on my calculator. So I'm going to take out my graphing calculator. I'm going to press the Stat button. And then from the Edit tab, I'm going to select the Edit command. And I'm going to enter this data into like L1. I'm going to actually put mine in L3 because this data I'm looking at here, oh my goodness. I think I want to use later. So feel free to follow along if you like. If you want to just sit and watch, that's okay too. But I'm just typing in data into my calculator. Feel bad for that person with the 85-minute commute. That's me some days on the way home. Yuck. Just when the traffic is bad. But sometimes the traffic is real bad. Okay, once I've entered all that data in, I'm going to exit out. I'm going to press Stat again, but this time I'm going to go over to the Calc tab and select one variable statistics. Since my data set is just a list of data values, it's not like a frequency table, I just want to have that data in the list option. I remember I typed mine in L3. You probably typed yours in L1. But I won't have a frequency list because this is just a straight data table, not a frequency list. And then I hit calculate. And it spits out all this stuff. If I scroll down, the stuff that I'm interested in right now is these last ones. This is actually the 5-number summary, right? There's the minimum value, or Q0, Q1. The median, that's Q2, Q3, and then the maximum value, that's Q4, if you remember from the 5-number summary stuff we talked about last time. But hey, there's the median. That was probably a lot easier than building a table and then counting off to find the middle value or values. Plus, I can't really screw it up, right? If I can get the numbers in my calculator correctly, the calculator says, okay, I will do this for you. Another measure of center is the mean. The symbol we use to represent the mean is this X with the bar on top of it. We just read that as X bar. And just like we talked about, we just take all of our observations, add them all up, and then divide by the number of observations. Or in the case if you're given a frequency table, you take up, or you multiply the frequency of that observation and then add up all the observations, right? And then divide by the number of observations. Now, in practice, am I ever going to really use this formula? No way, man. I'm doing it on my calculator. So again, if I wanted the mean for this data set, well, shoot, I already had that, right? If I scroll to the top, one of the first statistics listed, oh, come on now, is the X bar. Look, there it is right there. Gave it to me for free with the median. Ooh, Mr. Kulik, that's pretty handy. So no big deal there, right? But what if I gave you a frequency table instead? Well, no big deal. I'm just going to use two lists here. So I'll go back to stat. I'll go to edit. I'm going to use L4 and L5. So I'm just going to do the observations in L4. You could delete L1 and just, or I'm sorry, clear the list for L1 and do this again in L1 and L2 if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter. You're not going to need this data again. So I got the frequency list, then I put in L5. Just again, exactly like it looks. I'm going to exit out of there. I'll go back to stat, back to calc. Pick one variable stats again, but this time my values were in L4 and my frequency list, I have one this time, right? I put that in L5. So I'll do that for L5 and then I just press enter and whammo, there's my mean. Notice at the same time, if I scroll down, it also gives me like my 5-number summary, including the median, which again is super nice to get that all in one shot. Yeah, Joey. So if you look above the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in blue is L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, etc. Oh, yeah. So you just, for frequency list, if it's L2, I just press second and the number 2 and it puts the L2 in. That's what you're asking, right? Yep. Okay. All right, so we did that. What if I have a frequency table where I'm given classes? So people that own 0 to 4 shoes, 5 to 9 shoes, etc. What am I going to do here? What am I going to use as my observation? We just did it in the activity. I'm going to use the mid-interval value because I'm given a range here instead of a specific number. So I'll just calculate those. And what I'll type into my calculator then is my mid-interval values will be my observation list, and then I have a frequency list. So I'll do stat, edit, and if I go back here and I look, that was my L1 and L2. Like a Dumbo, when I did this earlier, I kept erasing my lists going, then I had to type back in. Now I should have just let it alone and just, not have to do it a bunch of times. But that's what I did. L1 was my mid-interval value and L2 is my frequency list. And then I'll just do stat, calc, one variable stats, L1 for my observations and L2 for my frequencies. And then hit calculate. Blammo. Again, mean right there for me. If I wanted to scroll down, I get the median also for free. Pretty sweet. Calculator's a powerful thing if we know how to use it. Again, and then the last of this is just running through the buttons on the calculator. So that's the gist of it. Oh my gosh, so many things. All right. The third measure of center that we'll talk about is the mode. Remember, the mode is just the most frequently occurring observation. Worth noting that modes don't need to be unique. You could have multiple numbers as a mode, right? If say we have some data set and 5 is used 7 times and 12 is also used 7 times, then 5 and 12 are both your mode. Everybody's okay with that? If we have a frequency table where like we have ranges and then frequencies, instead of having a mode, you have a modal class, which would be the range that's got the biggest frequency with it, or ranges, because you could have 2 that are 3 that are tied for first place. Is everybody okay with that idea? So we just call that a modal class. But essentially all we're doing is counting. So we have these 3 different measures for center. We have mean, median, and mode. Mr. Kulik, how do I know which one to use? Does it matter? Oh, you bet it matters. So if I have a skewed distribution or a distribution with outliers, I want to use the median. It's the least affected by that skew or the outlier, because if I'm counting to the middle number, even if one of my numbers is like 10,000 and my smallest number is like 4, still like one number is all that mattered. If I have a symmetric distribution without any outliers, I want to use the mean. That typically gives you the best representation there. And if I am looking at qualitative data, a mode is the most appropriate, right? If we're looking at color, everybody's favorite color, how do I do a median or mode or median or mean for favorite color? You can't. We just look at, the most popular color, which is obviously going to be purple. Everybody's okay with that idea? Now, think about us having a distribution of values. If I have a skewed distribution, the mean is going to be pulled towards the skew, right? The median will also be pulled towards the skew, but much less so. The mode doesn't depend on a skew at all, right? Or if you have a big outlier, again, the mean will be pulled a lot by the outlier. Median, maybe just a little bit. Mode, not at all. If I have a perfectly symmetric distribution, all 3 of them are going to be the same value, right? The mean, median, mode would be identical. Everybody feel okay on that? So the big takeaway here is the mean is the one that's really affected by skews and outliers. Median less so, mode not at all. But mode is often like not that interesting. Okay. So again, plot your summary, because to pick which one you want to do, it's hard to tell a skew just by looking at raw data, right? All right, that's it. So next time, we'll finish up 7.3. On Monday next week, I have another activity for us to do that'll work on some of these skills that we're talking about in 7.3. Wednesday, we'll do the quiz. Friday, we'll do the test. That's kind of the plan for next week. Barring anybody's strenuous objections to be like, Mr. Kulik, this is a terrible day because I have like 5 other tests. Wednesday the quiz, Friday the test. You may.